Hi there. Welcome to today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. This marks an important day in Maroon history as they celebrate victory against the British for their freedom. So we'll look at how one community is using their heritage to create wealth. Later, a trip back in time via images that reveal the impact of the 1907 Kingston earthquake, plus goals to achieve. Sit back and relax for these and more to come as we turn the pages of Jamaica Magazine.
Join us on Sunday, January 7 during Jamaica Magazine for a special back-to-school message from Education Minister Senator Ruel Reid as he assesses the successes of the past school year and outlines plans for 2018 and beyond. That's a special back-to-school message from Education Minister Senator Ruel Reid inside Jamaica Magazine this Sunday, January 7, right here on this station.
January 6 marks a significant moment in history for Maroons in Trelawney. It's the anniversary of the day Maroons signed a peace treaty with the British and is also the birthday of one of their leaders, Captain Cudger. The retention of our African heritage among the several Maroon settlements in Jamaica is an important aspect of our culture throughout generations. In this feature, we'll look at some of those customs that have become an important tourism attraction.
The sound of the abang, the infectious beat of the drum, the effortless moves of the hips.
Welcome to Charleston Maroon Community.
They have been here for centuries, inheriting cultural expressions, a lifestyle that continuously mesmerizes locals and foreigners alike.
That the history of the Maroons, we show them. They show them and how proud they are at their history. It's very interesting to see how they survive for the British.
Jamaican Maroon descendants have a rich history, freedom, self-sufficiency, pride, the warrior spirit, family, spirituality. It is a legacy they mean to preserve for their children and children's children. A journey to Charlestown, one of Jamaica's major Maroon communities, reveals this cultural continuity in the architecture of the town.
Even though the entrance is small, this is where the Maroons would escape when being chased by the British.
Thatched roofs are still there, if not quite for dwelling purposes anymore. Living off the land is a Maroon staple. Today, subsistence farming remains a preoccupation for both the men and women in these communities. Passed down through the generations, self-sufficiency for the Maroons means survival. Being independent is indispensable.
The thrust of the Maroon Council under my tenure is to really use the culture, the heritage, what they are our foreparents left us, what our ancestors left us, to drive economic development. And it's been rewarding because really and truly so much is happening. We have a Safo Yard, which you will see, we have a museum.
In Charlestown, Safo Yard embodies a consciousness of the economic value in preserving and showcasing the Maroon culture. So young, old, men, women, all play a part in teaching visitors what it means to be a Maroon, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
It's all right. Down here is a nice spot. We're going to clean it up. We have a sound system. We're going to play music and try to do something of our own. We're heading towards building up a proper kitchen, a proper bathroom, storeroom and everything. Further on, we need 2 rooms that people can come. And if they don't want to go back home at the same time, they can have it to rest.
Food and drink is important to the Maroon way of life. The intricacies of jerking a wild hog on pimento wood must be done deftly. And for those wanting a taste of this culinary culture, the people of Charlestown are preserving their unique talents through a food and winemaking company and Riverside Lounge.
When we do have people that make buster, it's showing entrepreneurship, people who want to own their own business.
How about a paki stuffed with bami, pork, callaloo, or even seasoned ackee, packaged and ready for sale? And then there's the practice of concocting juices from available food items.
It's good because even the men, they had two special wines that they come for, peanut and gold.
Education in a maroon village is something that takes place both within and outside the community. Many children are sent into the wider Jamaican community for schooling. When they return home, parents and grandparents are there to impart the knowledge of their African ancestry. The children, some of whom are given African names, are taught how to cook on wood fire, dance to the rhythm, and use the drums for not only entertainment purposes, but more importantly, as a means of communicating. Hard work and education are crucial, but so too is recreation, like relaxing by the river. Maroons in today's society are definitely not evading their culture. The Maroons then and their descendants now are embracing their culture. 14-year-old Shamara Smith is proud of her background and readily makes herself available to be trained as a tour guide.
I'm quite comfortable being a Maroon. Yeah, I feel good. I'm proud about my culture. It's good because it kind of helped me in school. When I do history, I kind of go ahead of the class.
Here is some information. If you think Maroon is in your family root, check out these surnames.
Earthquakes can be catastrophic. Buildings collapsing, caught on fire, and flooding from dams breaking, landslides, and even tsunamis. As we continue to observe Earthquake Awareness Month, follow us back in time for a glimpse of images that show just what could happen. In fact, what actually happened when a major earthquake struck Kingston.
Air distilled, suspended animation, moment transfixed. 3:30 p.m. Monday, January 14, 1907, etched invariably in history as the instant that Kingston was changed forever.
At 3 o'clock, God is going to speak. And then, of course, at 3:30, about 3:30, the earthquake struck. I saw this building before. Now this is what it looks like. This is what the quake did.
Kingston destroyed by earthquake. Let them know what had happened to their city, what had happened to the capital of Jamaica.
Just 3 days after the great earthquake of 1907 struck downtown Kingston, several news headlines painting desolate pictures of the city were being circulated in the international press.
Horror and gloom increase. Entire streets leveled and crowds of frightened, shrieking people.
The shock lasted nearly 36 seconds. Pillars of smoke rose in Harbour Street, and soon afterwards, flames shot into the sky.
Semi-darkness. 600 bodies recovered, only a few buildings left standing and not one safe.
The first headlines went out, without pictures of course, Kingston destroyed by earthquake and so on. Everybody was curious. Was it really destroyed? How badly damaged was it and so on? So that people were very curious to see what it looked like, and then the pictures started appearing.
Photography was essentially in its infancy in Jamaica at the turn of the 20th century. Even though several persons operated photography studios, the art form was not a well-developed genre. Photography was more or less a pastime, a way of creating keepsakes like postcards to send abroad to relatives and friends. Several images of 1907 were relayed to foreigners, utilities downed, scavengers in rubble, Kingstonians dazed at the fate which had befallen their city. Many of the more poignant depictions of Kingston circa January 14, 1907, therefore, remained outside of the city and Jamaica for decades.
It's what Jamaicans were sending out to the outside world that has survived. You know, there's really very little that has survived in Jamaica itself, except, of course, what the National Library has collected. But most of what I have collected has been literally searching the outside world for images. And I am amazed at how much has survived. I mean, I remember when I first saw my first photograph of the disaster, I said, oh my God, I wonder if any more exist.
Today, searches on the largest internet-based marketplace, eBay, yield an image of the 1907 Great Kingston earthquake for sale every day. The event is one of the most reported of its time and ranks highly on the list of the best photographed.
Disaster photography is a very special area. People are fascinated. They still are. Just think of 9/11 in the United States and all the images and the television images and so on of 9/11. People wanted to see what happened when those planes flew into the buildings. It was very similar. Jamaica was in the headlines.
Telegraph and postal services were limited by the disaster, and so the foreign media had to improvise when compiling pictures to accompany their breaking headlines. They commissioned artists to create their own impressions of what Kingston looked like in the wake of the earthquake. Jamaica, however, had its own assembly of photographers who captured several post-quake images and amazingly managed to develop and salvage the collection. There were Theophilus Duperley, grandson of the famous Adolphe Duperley, who printed lithographs of the 1831 Christmas Rebellion and the Emancipation celebrations in Kingston in 1836. H.J. Calm, E.E. Grant, better known for his tourism-related photographs, and John Clary.
Theophilus Duperley actually was at 85 King Street, which is about where the fire started on King Street. He was actually trapped in the wreckage of his building, you know, and to get away from the fire, he literally had to leave his right arm behind. As a consequence of that, obviously, you know, with the destruction of his property, the cameras and everything, there are very few photographs by Duperley, who was the most famous photographer.
However, Dr. Boxer has attributed most of the surviving quake photographs to John Clary, perhaps the second most famous photographer of that era. Clary had compiled an album with some 23 images of the destroyed city, and an additional 18 of his post-quake photographs are owned by the National Library. The exhibition's curator, however, votes E.E. Grant's photographs most emotive and interesting.
Life is all about making decisions, choosing from a number of options to do a particular thing, which may result in a specific outcome.
It can be difficult, but there are 4 things you can do to help make that decision.
Stop. Check out what's happening and remind yourself to think before acting.
Think. Make sure you're aware of the choices, all the advantages and disadvantages. Then think about the consequences.
Act. Choose the best option and do something about it.
Review. Finally, review what you have done and determine if it was good or bad. That way, you'll be in a better position to make the next decision, whether big or simple.
On the board this week, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is inviting persons to email submissions of no more than 5 pages for consideration by Friday, January 19, as it prepares Jamaica's 21st to 23rd State Party report to the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Persons can send emails to info@mfaft.gov.jm or IODassistant2@mfaft.gov.jm. To find out more, contact the Public Relations and Media Affairs Unit at 926-4220. E-Learning Jamaica Limited invites your support for its toy and book drive. The items are for donation to the New Hope Children's Home in Mandeville, which accommodates babies and children up to 7 years. In addition to toys and books, you are also invited to donate children's vitamin, baby formula, fitted crib sheet, cleaning supplies, food items, and toiletries. Drop off your items at E-Learning Jamaica Limited, 36 Trafalgar Road, Kingston 10. Call 922-4044. Passion and Purity invites all women to the annual Ladies' Conference on Saturday, January 13, 2018. The theme is God's Woman, Beautiful Inside Out. Venue is the Bible Teachers International at 33.5 Eastwood Park Road. Registration begins at 4 p.m. and the conference starts at 5 p.m. Special features include praise and worship and God's perspective portrayed through dance, drama, power word, and more. Dress code is semi-formal and admission is free. So come out and have a wonderful time of fellowship. Bring a friend, cousin, aunt, sister, or mother. You don't want to miss it. See you there. The Joint Select Committee of Parliament appointed to review the bill entitled the Data Protection Act 2017 has extended the period for submissions on the bill to Wednesday, January 17, 2018. Members of the public wishing to make submissions on the bill must do so by this date. Send your written submissions to Clerk to the Houses, Gordon House, 81 Duke Street, Kingston, or clerk@japarliament.gov.jm. You may find a copy of the bill on the Parliament's website, japarliament.gov.jm, under the heading Publications. Persons making written submissions may be required to appear before the committee at short notice to explain their submissions. And that's all for our community notices today. Send us your events for broadcast on the JIS Community Notice Board. Call 922-868022 or send an email to cbishop@jis.gov.jm.
There are often hindrances to attaining the goals you set out to achieve, including lack of funding or simply some enticing distractions. But don't give up. Be optimistic and affirm your resolve to advance that goal. Watch now as we attempt to reinvigorate your spirit on this path to success.
It's life in the fast lane for ambitious people determined to seize every opportunity to progress, tactically assessing the past while passionately commanding future goals, their academic ambitions among them.
I wanna rule my destiny. Yeah, I wanna rule my destiny.
There are distractions and hindrances, circumstantial and financial, that can prevent persons from advancing their academic goals. But in the midst of it all, it's important to build a momentum to stay the course and achieve your full potential.
There are so many tertiary institutions that offer a variety of programs, skill building, not just academics. There are ways in which I think our young people can better advance themselves, and it is imperative in a society that we live in now and in the global environment that students do try to access tertiary education. It's for their own good and it's for the good at the country as well.
One effective tool used by a lot of people to uplift themselves is that of making resolutions, turning a new leaf, as some people say. A promise to ourselves to kick bad habits and focus on getting important things done.
Yo, my youth, you know big man thing. I beat some books and all, you know. I have to continue my education. Where that one?
Yo, a true thing you're saying, education is key, man. Life would be so much better.
You know. Picture me 10 years from now, you know. An international banking tycoon. Wow.
Right now there are many programs in the tertiary sector which help them to become entrepreneurs. They are able to perform in the arts. I mean, the world is their oyster. There are just so many avenues that you can channel yourselves into. I suppose now persons have to be thinking a lot more on self-reliance. So it's not just about going to find a job, it's also how can I do something for myself to enhance my own development.
Every youth want get them own a residence, and if America can get a black president, that means anything possible. So from the mind conceive.
Successful completion of secondary education paves the way for entry into tertiary studies and gainful employment. Work becomes important where the finances are found wanting, but one has to guard against it becoming a hindrance to gaining higher education.
I want to ensure that my academic pursuits are number one.
My intention is really to graduate with first-class honors. Matter of fact, I want to be valedictorian.
Interesting.
That sounds good. Well, you know, for me, when I leave you next year, what greater accomplishment can I feel than being knowledgeable, skilled, and, you know, be competent at the highest level?
True, true.
So let's look forward to next year.
Next year it is.
Next year it is.
Right.
All right, well, I tell you.
I got
It's
class.
so interesting.
Yeah.
Higher levels of education and training allows for the enrichment of individual achievers. On a national scale, it's fuel for collective social and economic progress. We may not be able to save up all the money we need to finance our academic fees, but that should not stop us from moving forward. Agencies like the Student Loan Bureau can help. It's the key government institution for financing tertiary education. To advance, you can't afford to, as they say, drop the ball or lose faith in becoming the best. Learning is not limited to any age group or particular phase in life. Most universities support this idea by providing programs tailored to meet the needs of a diverse student base. And accredited tertiary level training institutions like mine are helping persons working in the public and private sector, offering courses at subsidized fees.
Every week there's a new course or program starting at Mind. For our associate degrees and postgraduate diplomas, however, typically our enrollment periods are January and September.
Outside of the Students' Loan Bureau, the Ministry of Finance is an available option for academic scholarships and bursaries. So, bachelor's, master's, doctorate. Whatever path we take, we can't lose sight of our true goal and must always seek greater achievement. Beyond the need to constantly update ourselves with new knowledge and developments, each of us must be optimistic about our potential and resolve to advance our academic goal at any age.
And now for some of the stories in our news this week.
Hi there, I'm Simone Wolf with your JIS News of the Week. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says there will be an increase in the number of zones of special operations this year as government moves to make Jamaica safe for all citizens.
Zones of special operations have shown Jamaicans that our security forces can police communities and control crime in localities without abusing citizens' rights. We have now created a framework for the whole of government response to citizen security.
The wage impasse between the government and rank-and-file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force will be the topic of cabinet deliberations when it meets on Monday, January 8. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave the commitment in a letter to the Jamaica Police Federation Tuesday. The first cargo of alumina produced by the Alpart refinery in St. Elizabeth under its new owners has left the island for China.
On this trip it is only supposed to carry 35,000 tons of alumina. But I'm sure when this Port Kaiser is expanded, that'll be a mega ship docking here for almost 4 million tons that will be shipped annually.
Meanwhile, the mining minister has announced that 60 young Jamaicans will depart for China towards the end of February into early March for training in technical operations. They will be the first cohort in a program that will continue at a cost of approximately $5 million.
After successfully completing 1.5 years of training, they will return from China to guaranteed positions with a clear career path to middle and upper management positions.
Sangster International is to undergo $40 million worth of infrastructural upgrading starting this calendar year.
As a result of the growth of passengers in an unprecedented matter, the growth of passengers in 2017, we were forecasting it to be 4%. We are going to end the year at 8%. So, as I say, when this happens, things have to happen at the airport to ensure that we can actually welcome passengers and airlines as they should be welcome in a destination like Jamaica.
The Southeast Regional Health Authority has retrofitted and handed over 1 ambulance each to the Princess Margaret Hospital and the Kingston and St. Andrew Health Services.
Currently we have a fleet of 16 ambulances. 8, of course, is in the shop for major repairs. For this year, we will be purchasing another 3 ambulances.
300 farm workers left the island this week to take up employment opportunities in Canada under the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program. They will be employed in greenhouse crop production, food processing, tobacco planting, vegetable farming, and fruit tree cultivation. And finally, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has called on church leaders to preach against crime and violence and its undermining force on the family structure.
You have to bring it to your pulpit. We can't allow much of what is happening to be covered up, particularly the abuse that is happening within families.
And those are some of the stories making news this week. I'm Simone Wolf.
And that brings us to the end of today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll do this all over again. Until then, you can click online at jis.gov.jm and visit our YouTube channel to get the latest government information. Also, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and download our app from the Google Play Store to stay informed. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to keep pursuing your goals throughout the year. Till next time, do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.